Well, hi everyone, it's been yet another week, and it seems likely that Gundam Gquuuuuux is really starting to get interesting. The episode starts basically where we left it off, with Amata basically crashing into the Earth. She enters the atmosphere in the Gquuuuuux, and being a Gundam, it can make atmospheric re-entry, far more successfully than the original Gundam, mind you. They had to leave its shield behind. But what Machu clearly forgot was the fact she's entering an atmosphere, and mobile suits can't fly in the Universal Century. But luckily, the Gundam has the core fighter, and as she makes it down, the Gquuuuuux jettisons the core fighter and slams headlong into the water, while Machu crashes somewhere nearby. She ends up, ironically, in a house, and they find her crash fighter and bring her into the house. However, things don't really go well. The mistress of the house, according to the two maidservants we run into, they found her, and she predicted the fact that Machu would crash land near her house. And they patch up her wounds, and basically spend the next few days trying to figure it out. Machu realises how she ended up there, and then things just go from there. It turns out for a fact that the house itself is actually, no polite way of putting it, a brothel. As this is what explains, in the original show, what Lala Soon was doing. In this version of the show, Lala Soon was... I used to think for a fact it was probably it was a street place. Probably a dirty hotel or something like that. With basically just a cheap hookup place. Until Char found her, and I'm presuming what I thought, basically he did a rescue attempt. Heads rolled. A couple of heads may have rolled, or he may have shot someone. But in reality, no. Apparently, according to Lala Soon, after Machu meets her, later on in the day she basically wakes up, or in the evening rather, they meet and been discussing basically what she's been doing. It turns out that Lala Soon, or at least the new types in this version of the Universal Century timeline, apparently have a connection to the other side, and somewhere along the line, new types in this universe can see an alternative universe. And basically, this isn't so much an alternative timeline, as it's more like an alternative reality. Whereas in the critical event, where something happened, history played a different role. In this case, Zeon won the war over to the Federation. And Lala Soon has dreamed of this alternative universe that is the original Prime, or the Prime Gundam timeline. Universal Century, that is. And basically, she has gone... And basically in that one, she was rescued by Char after he bought her freedom. And then she went off into space, became a new type, or became part of the Flanagan Institute, piloted the Elmeth, and then, if you watch the original Gundam anime, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to summarise there. But basically, she's still waiting for Char to come and rescue her, or the man in red, as she says. So that could be Shun. Should be Shunji. We don't know. But anyway, at the same time, the owner of the house that she lives in, the Cutlass Estate, which presumably is a brothel frequented by both high-ranking officials, including Zeon officials, the girls basically hatch a plan. First of all, they plan to basically all make a bid for freedom. And they do this by setting the house on fire. Yeah, so basically the house is on fire and the whole building's on fire, and the two maidservants reckon, one of them says for a fact that thought they were going to set this fire in the storage area, but no, they'd set the whole thing ablaze. And Lala and Machu managed to get out, find the Gquuuuuux's core fighter, and then Machu plans to take her with... The two maidservants ask her to take Lala with her, but she tries to, but the owner of the house, he doesn't really have much of a house anymore because it's on fire, tries to stop them from leaving. Machu gets into the core fighter and escapes, as Lala Soon basically gives her an opportunity to fly off. Machu then flies over the ocean for a bit, where she finds the Gquuuuuuux underwater. And it turns out for a fact that the Gquuuuuuux has actually landed on something after going down with the water. So the Gquuuuuuux is still intact, but she's also landed on something called the Rose of Sharon. Now, I've been wondering what the Rose of Sharon is, but it turns out that Charlie Bull, the reason why the fact that she was even able to escape was the fact that Charlie Bull let her escape. Basically, he cloned her phone and then just watched the whole thing play out. So someone wants Machu to either find it, presumably Shunji, or perhaps either Gurren or someone else, perhaps even the Prime Lala, is giving her instructions. Well, we don't know who it is. I mean, she's going to Charlie Bull to sleep. Anyway, the Soden comes up, picks Machu up, and the Rose of Sharon, which turns out to actually be the Elmeth. And people are thinking it must be distorted. And Charlie Bull reckons for a fact, it's most likely the fact it's unstable. Crossed over universes, which might make it go a bit funny. Or perhaps, there might be the aesthetic features of it, as it does kind of look, according to the girl who's with him, I can't remember her name now, but apparently it looks a bit like a tulip, not a rose. Anyway, he says for a fact that Lala is inside, still in some form of what can only be described as basically a sleep or slumber. And apparently she's been asleep for a long time, with even something like thornies attached to her. We won't know until the next episode. Yeah, this was another good one, and very, very interesting. So apparently the Rose of Sharon appeared out of nowhere, according to Charlie Bull, and then Zeon took it in to try and figure out what it was, and then it vanished from Gundam when the 1 Year War was occurred. So basically, the Rose of Sharon is a MacGuffin, but it's a good MacGuffin. And at the same time, we now have 2 Lalas running around. Now, if they can wake Lala Sun up, the original that is, we might have a bit of an interesting scenario here. And it certainly explains what happened to Char. Somewhere along the lines, apparently, they do make reference to other Gundam settings with this version of Lala saying the fact that the white mobile suit, presumably, basically the new Gundam, did kill Char. But it's unclear what timeline she saw. Because in the original timeline, Char lived right up until UC-33, where it was blown up. Basically when the new Gundam exploded, I think. So we may never know what happened. As for what happened with the new types, we might yet know. There's a lot of stuff going on. It is really starting to get interesting, I'll give it that. Well, I've been the Universe Challenge, so please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheerio!